Hello again, and welcome to another session to the dining portion of Dungeons and Dragons and Dining and Dudes. I have another simple and delicious dish brought to us yet again by the Elder Scrolls Cookbook. This has been a go-to meal for the last 5 years and was one of the first dishes I actually made when we started playing D&D. Don't let the name fool you though. Venison is not a requirement and can be replaced with beef or even lamb, should you prefer. A fast, simple, and delicious meal. It's easy to make and easy to scale up or down depending on your party size. Today's recipe can feed 4 to 5 party members. You'll need 2 to 3 tablespoons of either flour or cornstarch. I'm using cornstarch today. You'll need 2 pounds of beef strips. Like I said earlier, if you have venison, go for it. But generally speaking, it's not readily available in my area, so I usually just go with a beef that is usually labeled stir-fry beef. It's already pre-cut, makes life a little easier for you. If your grocery store doesn't offer strips, you can either buy a sirloin or a tenderloin and cut it yourself into small bite-sized strips. If you really want to go crazy, feel free to talk to a butcher and they can supply you with something that would be adequate if you just tell them what you're trying to make. So getting our full picture of ingredients, we have our beef strips followed with 2 to 3 tablespoons of flour or cornstarch. I'm using cornstarch today. We'll need 1/3 of a cup of soy sauce. I went with low sodium. 1/3 of a cup of brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of ginger powder or 2 teaspoons of fresh grated ginger if you have that available, 3 cloves of garlic sliced thin or pressed, a little salt and pepper to cover the meat as well. I didn't realize it during recording, but I did forget to add the final piece of the puzzle, which is 1 teaspoon of red pepper flakes and 1 teaspoon of cumin. If you want a little bit more spice, add another teaspoon of the pepper flakes to the dish, but it is important that I do call that out. Prior to mixing, you want to give a generous seasoning of SMP on the meat. If you want to be a little bit more thorough, you can sprinkle a little into the cornstarch and flour like I'm doing here. Once that's done, it's time to get our hands a little dirty. Start mixing the cornstarch with your meat. That's what she said. We want to get all of this coated. If you need a little extra, go ahead and pop a little bit more in like you'll see me doing a little bit here. Coating the meat is going to help us get some good browning all over, as well as help thicken the sauce when we add the soy sauce and brown sugar down the road. Once you're done, go ahead and get a large skillet preheated on medium heat with some olive oil. Once ready, start putting the meat in. Again, depending on your party size, you may have to do this in a few batches. I did mine in 2. Important thing here is to don't feel rush. Let the meat cook thoroughly, mixing it around every couple of minutes. Since I have them in strips and they're cut pretty thin, it shouldn't take more than 5 to 7 minutes per batch. Once your first batch is done, put it aside on the plate. Add a little bit more oil to the skillet, and if necessary, throw in your second batch. The important thing here is we don't crowd the skillet. You start crowding the skillet, not only do you bring the temperature down, but your meats are going to take longer to cook. They're not going to brown. It's a big mess. So this is really the biggest part of this recipe is practice patience. Actually, with any recipe is practice patience. This one goes by really fast. It doesn't take long to cook. So if it does require another batch or a couple extra minutes, try to have a little bit of patience. Don't rush things. So if you notice here on the second batch of meat, I do have some brown bits that are stuck on the bottom of the pan here. That's not something to get in a tizzy about. Once we start adding the rest of the ingredients, that's actually going to come up, and if anything, it's going to flavor the sauce that we create. Once you are done with your batches, go ahead and add a little bit more olive oil, and we're going to throw in our garlic and ginger. We only want to stir it around for a minute or 2 before adding our soy sauce. The important thing is we don't want to burn the garlic, and we don't want to burn the ginger if you're actually using whole pieces of ginger here, or sliced pieces of ginger, and not ginger powder. So I just give this a quick stir, give it a minute or 2, and then add your soy sauce. Give it a quick mix, follow up with your brown sugar, and then another stir. Then pop in the pepper flakes and cumin, and guess what? We're going to stir, and as we're stirring, we're going to turn down the heat to medium-low. We don't want this sauce to start boiling. We're going to allow the sauce to cook and thicken, which will only take 2 to 3 minutes. Once that happens, go ahead and we're going to throw our meat back into the pan, stirring it around, make sure everything is coated properly. We're going to do that for another minute or 2, and guess what? That's it. That's all there is to it. This YouTube video is stupid. Anyone can do it. I can do it. You can do it. You're going to end up with a delicious, sweet, and salty meat for a group to enjoy in less than 30 minutes. You pair this on top of some white or brown rice, or even rice pilaf. It's probably one of the most requested dishes that I have as a DM, and even if I'm just cooking for friends and family. The rice can be brought by another party member, makes life easy for you. If you have a rice cooker, it's even easier. You do that on the side. It's honestly, if you're a carnivore and you have very little experience cooking, this is definitely a dish to start out with. If you want to have a meal that just pops and gives flavor, it doesn't have much prep. Honestly, doesn't even cost that much if you get some good meat that might be on sale. This is probably one of my top 5 dishes as a DM to cook. So, as always, let me know how it turns out. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll be back with more delicious meals in the future.